Welcome students, or soon-to-be students, or anyone else who might find this video interesting. I'm here to talk to you about study abroad because I'm a senior now, but when I was a freshman, I did one study abroad program for 1 week. It was a spring break type of thing, and study abroad was always something that was super unattainable to me in my head. I always just thought, oh, I could never do something like that, too expensive, we don't have that kind of money, there's just no way. But I was able to do it because of a lot of different reasons, and I just wanted to say it's possible even if you think there's no way you could do it. I wanted to give you a lot of details on what it's like so that you kind of know what you're getting into. So I'm gonna start off with like a basic Q&A with a lot of different questions that people might have about study abroad, like in general. I studied abroad in London, UK, and it was incredible. I would never take back the experience. You should try to study abroad while you're in college. You should really consider it because it's like so valuable. You can put it on a resume. You learn so much while you're there that it's just so worth it. I feel like, of course, the first thing that anyone wants to know is how much does it cost? For my program, which was only 1 week in London, it was $3,600, and that did include tuition. Some schools, they'll have it to where like tuition is not included, so the price, say it's around that much, they'll be like, oh, also tuition for this class, this 3-credit course is $1,000 on top of that. I think that when you hear that someone studied abroad, you automatically are like, oh, their family has money. In my case, I got the entire thing paid for by my school. So after I got back, I got this like check in the mail, and I was like, what is this? What is this? It was called the VGAP grant, and it was basically just a grant for like students who need financial help. It literally paid back the entire cost of the trip. Like, no joke, it was crazy. And I also know there are so many scholarship opportunities, financial aid, like you just have to be on the ball about it like early on or else you're not gonna get it. If you think there's no way that you can pay for it, think again. Chances are you might get at least something towards the trip. So usually how it works is like there will be a faculty member from your school who like leads the trip. One of my teachers was actually the faculty leader, so I already knew him. He was a great guy. I think there were maybe like 12 to 15 of us on the trip. The teacher basically like, he creates an itinerary, probably with help from the school, and my teacher was actually from London, so that's why he was the one who did this trip every year. He's the one who showed us all around London. The class that it was, because the study abroad, like if you're going to do a one like little study abroad program, it's actually a class. So the class was called the BBC in British Media. We met for like several weeks leading up to the trip to learn all about London and Britain and everything, and then we finally went on the trip, and then our only assignment was we had to write an essay afterwards, like a very short one. But while we were there wasn't much studying going on, if you know what I mean. All of that took place beforehand. When we were there, it was mainly just lots of fun, super jam-packed days of like waking up super early, like 6 a.m., having to be in the lobby by a certain time, and everyone had to be down there. You had like points taken off if you were late. There were some people who were always late holding us up. Then it's basically like go, go, go right after that. We would get on the subway. We took the subway everywhere. Sometimes the bus, but usually the subway. We would all hop on as a crew. We had like subway cards that were given to us that were like unlimited, I think. We would go to the first location, and we would do that. Right when it ended, we would like take a bathroom break somewhere or go all get food somewhere and then go to the next location. So it was like that all the way every single night, all 7 days. We would be out from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. just doing all this stuff. So the flights were also paid for, of course, but they're not always. Like at some schools, the flight is not included. And so we all just met up at the airport ahead of time. The flight was like 6 hours there, 8 hours back. I live in Virginia, by the way. On the trip, we got one free day, one completely free day all to ourselves where we didn't have to go out as a group. We didn't have to spend time with the teacher. We just all did exactly what we wanted anywhere in London. That is the day that I ended up going on the London Eye, which is this like massive Ferris wheel over the water. You know, just had one of those nights where you go out on the town and see all the lights, the people, and just have a lot of fun. So another thing I wanted to mention was culture shock, because that's something that a lot of people experience when they go to other countries. This was my first time going to another country besides America. I didn't exactly have culture shock, but it is a little scary at first when you go to a store or a restaurant and you literally don't know how money works. Like, the bills are different, the coins are different shapes, and you have to like really prepare in that way. You can't just walk into another country not knowing anything. So all of us would be like relying on the cashier to help us like figure out how to pay for stuff, which is kind of a little bit too trusting. But you don't tip, which here of course we do. We tip on so many things, but in London it's like weird. And to order like a soda in a restaurant, I don't order soda, but like other people with me were asking for like a Coke, and they don't even have those half the time. And when they do, they give it to you in like a little glass bottle like this big, and it's like $3 or $4. It's just kind of the feeling of like, I feel so lost, I don't really know what's going on around me type of thing. But you definitely get over it really quickly. The people there, I would say the people there are nice, but I think some of the common courtesies we have here in the US, they're like different. No one would hold the door open for you, like if they're like in front of you and they're walking out of a building. That happened every day. They would just like completely let it go. And it was just like, oh, just wasn't used to it. It's fine, it's not a big deal. People are very fast, very on the go. They don't really care what's up with you. They just want to get where they're going. Like if you're in the underground, like the subway, and you need to like use the escalators or anything, if you don't stand right, if you're not like walking up, people will get pissed. Like people will cuss you out because you can't just be standing on the escalator and not leaving a space beside you for people to walk up. Yeah, it's very serious in that aspect. People need to get to where they're going. There's lots of diversity. The nightlife is amazing. It's very good vibes. People are nice, for sure. And then the outlets there, they're so different. You can't just like take your phone charger there without a converter. You have to put a converter in the wall. Just wherever you're going, you need to like look up any and all ways you need to prepare for it, or else you're gonna get there and like not be able to charge your phone. So we were prepared in that way, of course. The architecture is literally just as you would imagine it. Everything is so aesthetically pleasing. As you walk down any street, any neighborhood, the buildings, like of course they have the baskets of all the plants and all the trailing vines, like all covering the brick outside of their houses, pretty flowers and gardens outside of every single house. It's just so fancy, I think. And you walk by so many famous things. Like we're just casually walking down the street and we turn to the side and there's Sherlock Holmes Museum. There's something exciting everywhere you look. And then you only have to be 18 to drink alcohol, and here you have to be 21. So I wasn't 21 yet at the time. I think I was 19. That was my first time ordering a drink in a restaurant or at the hotel bar and feeling so adult. They wouldn't even card me half the time. So we did have a very detailed itinerary that we were given, I think, a few days before the trip. That included a full tour of the Houses of Parliament, the Harry Potter studios where the movies were made. That was literally like the best part of the entire trip. I hadn't even seen any of the movies except for the first one at the time, but the studios, if you make it to London, go to the Harry Potter studios. It's incredible. You basically see every one of the sets. There's so many interactive, cool things that you can do. It's like you walk in there and it's like magical. You feel like you're in the movie. Oh, the Shakespeare where the plays were made, or I think it's just a recreation of like where the plays were made. That was super cool. But I actually slept through it. And you would wonder, like, how did you sleep through it? We were literally standing during the tour. I literally put my head down as I was standing up on the stage of the like Shakespeare plays and went to sleep like that. I am not one who's used to waking up at 6 a.m. and doing that every day for this trip was very troubling. Oh, I forgot to mention, we also all were assigned a roommate, but you could like switch, so I chose my roommate and we really got along. It was like the best roommate I could have chosen. But I also wanted to tell you why the experience wasn't as good as it could have been. Let's just say I had some trouble there with men. Well, boys. Of course, I went to London with a complete group of strangers, pretty much, except I knew one person on the trip. I knew this guy who was also in my class who I had become friends with, and we decided to both go on the trip because it would be fun, right? To know one other person. So he ended up flirting with me, or trying to, the whole entire trip. It got so bad. Okay, I should have just told him to his face, but since we're always in like a whole group, I didn't want to make anything awkward. I didn't want anyone to like know that this was an issue because I didn't want like anyone being a part of it. I didn't want to start gossip or anything. So I ended up messaging his best friend back home. And I said, "Can you tell so-and-so to stop flirting with me? It's getting really obvious and I'm not having it." And so, of course, he told the guy, "Oh, he stopped flirting with me. No, I understand we're on a trip, but that doesn't mean it's romantic. It's not. It's simply not." And then there was also this really creepy guy. I don't want to be mean, but like, it's not being mean. I'm telling the truth, bro. So there was this really creepy guy who was also on the trip. I had noticed that he was kind of walking alone for a lot of it. When we were in groups, people would pair off and walk together. He would be walking alone, or he didn't seem to be talking a lot. So I was like, I should talk to him. Like, we should be friends on this trip. So I went up to him and I was like, "Hey," and we started talking and I asked him all these questions about himself. After that, he literally didn't leave my side for like till the very end of the trip, and he tried to ask me all these personal questions that were creepy, like TMI stuff. Like, he would always, and then he would tell me all this stuff about he and his girlfriend. He would tell me that he still had pictures of her, like, indecent, and that he would like look at them all the time, and he would always like whisper stuff in my ear when we were at restaurants or like just like standing around in a group. Like, he would always whisper stuff in my ear. That was literally the worst part of the entire trip. I was creeped out. I felt like I was being stared at the whole time. He obviously had a thing for me, and that is not me trying to be cocky whatsoever. Like, you could have asked anyone on the trip and they would be like, "Oh yeah." A friend of mine on the trip, someone who I also became friends with while we were there, I told him the issue, and he went and reported it to our faculty leader for me. I did not know he was going to do that. That was so nice of him. I just told him about it. He was like, "Oh, that's gross. Like, that must suck to like have to worry about that all the time." I was like, "Yeah, I really don't like it." Then the next day, my teacher pulls me aside and he's like, "Hey, he told me what's going on. Like, I'm gonna talk to the guy and tell him that if he doesn't stop, you know, there will be consequences." Shout out to Michael. Michael's the one who told him. Thank you so much. That saved my trip. I'm gonna go ahead and rate my trip to London a 7.5 out of 10. Just because the boy troubles were looming over me for so much of it. Ever since then, I've been dying to go back. Seriously, one of the best experiences of my life, like going to another country, learning so much about another culture. Peace out. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you studied abroad in the comments. Good luck on getting scholarships or grants. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.